You know, over the last few decades, we've seen an incredible evolution of technology occur. And this technology does interface with how we access emergency medical services and how sometimes they respond to our medical emergencies. We'd like to talk about a few aspects to help bring us up to speed so that we know how to leverage technology to our best advantage and how to navigate some of the nuances. Let's talk about text messaging. In certain areas, they've adopted an aggressive text messaging ability to access 911. But I think it's important to understand that it's not in every location, and you need to be aware of that before you depend on it. However, the advantages could be for those who are hearing impaired and need to be able to read the text versus being able to hear. I also noticed that this helps when you're in loud situations like factories or in an environment where it's very difficult to actually hear through your speakerphone or regular phone speaker. I think it's important to know that the preferred method of accessing EMS is by dialing 911 with a cell phone and talking to them or calling them. You can use it through a normal speaker, or you can put it on speakerphone, which is also the preferred method, so that you can lay your phone down and actually be coached through the actual emergency. A couple nuances in regards to that dialing of 911 is that we can find a phone in two states on average: unlocked or locked. If it's locked, most phones have an automatic emergency word that if you push it, it will bypass the lock and allow you to dial 911. This is especially important if you hand your phone off to a bystander who doesn't know your unlock code. So it's also important, I believe, to teach children, nannies, and babysitters the nuances of each and every phone that they may have accessible to dial 911. All phones are different, so make yourself familiar with them and be sure you know well how to access 911. Another exciting development is apps and software that help to draw in bystanders and volunteers who are trained and available to rescue, but the problem is logistics. How do we know where they are when the emergency happens? There's an exciting application called PulsePoint that when a trained rescuer registers with them, they enter into a pool of rescuers who can be notified of local emergencies happening in their area, that they may be in a good position to actually respond and help in a crisis. In addition to that, there's an AED locator so that we also know where the next available AED might be located, and a way that when you see a publicly accessible AED available, we can go ahead and check in and put it into the database so that it adds to the whole logistical map of where these life-saving devices are and how they're available in the time of emergency. And last but not least, I think it's important that we touch on landlines and voice over internet protocol, or VoIP, phone systems. These voice over IP phones are extremely popular because they access through the internet and can be moved from office to office or home to home and still maintain your phone number and your account. The problem is it may not be registered with the actual accurate location. So if you move your account or move locations but you did not update your account and you dial 911, there's no way for the dispatcher to actually know exactly where you're calling from. So it is your responsibility to make sure that you go into the actual account system and update your current location for that actual physical device that you'll be dialing 911 from, accessing emergency medical services. Landlines might also have a little bit of a nuance that you should think about, and that is if it's an office, they many times have an outbound calling dial number that you have to push first before you get an outside line. These are all things that could be very different, and you should just make yourself aware of it. And if you can't remember, make little signs and put them by the phones so that you can be sure to remind yourself, but more importantly, people who are visiting that may not know the internal workings of that local office. Some things to think about when you're dialing out for 911, trying to access emergency medical services when they're needed most. Don't be slowed down by technology. It's designed to help us, not hurt us.